What's going on, everybody? This is Jack with the Trading Tribe. Excited to be back at it today with another trading video. And today we're going to be actually looking at the different indicators I use when trading and how to set these up on your chart if you are using the ThinkorSwim platform, which is what I use primarily to day trade in the markets. So excited to bring this content today. Feel free to like and subscribe to the channel for a lot more of this, but I figured this would be really nice since all of my videos will have these indicators. It'll be useful for you to know the different ones that I find valuable in the stock market and in the futures market. So we can get started with that. I do have a 1 day, 1 minute chart on the screen. So keep that in context, right? Some of these different indicators are more useful when day trading. So I'm going to be primarily talking about the day trading indicators. And if we zoom in on today, for example, we'll notice quite a bit on my chart. And we'll kind of start from the bottom. So this very bottom indicator is what we call the RSI. And the RSI is kind of a mathematical gauge on where this price is relative to a bunch of different indications like volume and historical price and the different context variables within the given day. And so we'll notice we have two kind of shiny lines and then we have a lot of gray and black. And this is really telling us if it's towards this top level of the RSI, it shows us from a mathematical perspective, right, that the price is kind of overbought, if you will. And then vice versa, right, if it comes down and tags this bottom line like it did right here, from a mathematical perspective, right, it is at an oversold level where price could see a pretty significant bounce. So think of this as a good deal for buyers, a good deal for sellers. Again, right, this is just an indicator, but it's a really nice filter for when I'm about to take a trade. Sometimes I will keep in mind where the RSI is. And if I'm misreading the chart, right, typically these will be a little off, right? You typically do not want to buy when the RSI is extremely overbought. There's obviously levels like today where it does go a little bit higher after the RSI shows that it's not a good deal anymore. But this is a given indicator that I love using, and I use it primarily as a filter really for what I'm actually doing in the markets. To add the RSI to your chart, you can come up to Studies and choose Edit Studies. And we'll notice in this lower section, I like to have my RSI. So what you can do is you can just search for RSI and then double click this indicator. I keep it standard, so these are kind of the standard settings, but you can tweak these levels to kind of equate to different numbers, but I kind of like it as is, so I keep everything the same. Next is volume. So I really like to have volume on my chart. There's kind of two ways you can set it up. You can set it up on your price chart, or you can have it separate like it is here. I like it separate just so that I can really understand the actual volume occurring in the market. So these are just the number of orders per minute in this example that are happening in the market. Obviously, when it gets earlier in the morning, the volume will step up as more of the world's awake, in the United States at least, and then typically that volume will die down as it gets later in the day. Similarly, if we go up to studies, we will notice volume is actually not here. So this is kind of a preset setting that you can just turn on. So we can go to our settings and we will have our volume, and we can either overlap it like I was saying, so it can be on the chart, and that would be this setting right here, or you can go to how you're actually trading. So in my case here, I'm trading futures, and this is what's called the volume subgraph. If you're trading stocks and ETFs, right, you could tag this. So everything really has its own volume subgraph setting, but that would be how to add volume in this lower section as well. And then last but not least, right, kind of my price chart, the most important part, we'll kind of go through my different indicators here. And we'll start with this kind of set of white lines. So this middle white line is the most popular indicator out there called the VWAP, or the volume weighted average price. And then these other two white lines are just one standard deviation away. And this is actually an easy way to tell kind of what direction the market's moving in. And this is just another sort of filter that I like to use for my given trading. And this is something I definitely recommend having on your chart, just because a lot of traders out there actually use this when they're actually thinking about trades or actually in a trade. And if we go to edit studies, we'll notice a VWAP is just another indicator offered by Mike. So we can search for VWAP, and here it is. And so we would just double click it to actually add it to our chart. And then we'll notice the normal settings. Like I mentioned, I'm a day trader, so it is in the context of day. And then you could move around these moving averages and standard deviations if you wanted to, but I just have it plus and minus 2, which is the standard. And then I do have two moving averages on my chart. So this red moving average is actually a 200-day moving average. So this is really the long-term movement of the actual price chart. So I like to have one be really a long-term moving average, and then I like to have one be a really tight exponential moving average, they call it. So if we zoom in real closely, right, we'll see we actually do have a really tight moving average that shows within the minute, really. It's keeping in mind the last 9 bars, the direction of the given candles. So if we zoom in to natural gas, this can be really effective because when we get in a trade, let's just say it starts working, right? We can see once it breaks this little moving average right here, and I'll zoom in. Once it breaks this moving average right here, it typically will hold that moving average until the trend changes. And we'll notice it got a little choppy here and actually picked back up over that moving average, but the red moving average is only going to keep in mind kind of the long term, whereas this exponential moving average will be a lot closer to the most recent price action. So essentially, I like to have both of those to confirm what price is actually doing on the given chart. And with that being said, these are the only indicators I like to use. So that's really it. So regardless of if I'm swing trading or day trading, these are the actual indicators I use on my chart. These are some of the reasonings why I use these given indicators on my chart. And these are how to add them into ThinkorSwim if you find them valuable. So thanks everybody for the time today, and we will be back with more sessions in the future.